Alright, we're rolling.
Okay, we're good?
Okay,
Awesome.
cool.
Let me fix my horrible posture. Welcome to the first unofficial live stream for
Midnight Spies, the band that we're both in.
Yeah.
I'm Julian Martinez.
I'm Matt.
This is Matt.
That's all you're gonna know.
You're not gonna give him the last name?
No.
Nothing? Okay, that's fine.
We're pretty much here to kind of celebrate and go over our first single we just put out. It is happening again.
Yeah. We've worked really hard on it. We hope if you've listened to it already, we hope you like it. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it right now. Why? Because we worked really hard on it. We're gonna talk about a lot of the stuff of how we made it, a lot of just details on the album that we're working on in general, the band, how we started, things like that, in no particular order. But
do you want to introduce yourself as what you actually do in the band?
yeah, I'm basically an instrumentalist, producer. I've learned mixing and mastering just for the album. I'm also the main guitarist for the album.
Matt, vocalist. If you're watching this, you probably already heard me.
Bassist, yes.
Pianist.
And songwriter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've written a couple songs. Julian's mainly the writer for all of our music, but I'm kind of the editor.
For song, yeah.
You're yes and no man.
I'll go through songs and work on them forever, and then all of a sudden I'll come up to you. I'm like, okay, is this actually good or not? And then he'll confirm it to me, whether it actually is or not. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because it does get me. It can get us a little riled up, but tis the process. Anyway. So, what should we talk about first?
You want to talk about the origin of the song?
Origin of the song? Kind of like the origin of the band, I would say, because that was
the first song you wrote.
It was the first song we wrote for the album, and I had written it after barely starting a lot of demos, just learning how to compose and kind of start producing. I was I didn't have anything professional to work with. I was just on a shitty what would you call a website?
Soundtrap?
It was called Soundtrap. It was an online free program, a free DAW for recording and making music, and it worked for the time. I still have that demo, and oh boy, it does sound. It sounds horrible compared to where we are now. But that was 3 years ago. That was at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And from there, I talked to Matt. I was like, I want to actually start a band, start writing an album, start doing something with it. Mm-hmm. And then from there, just kept practicing. Of course, got into more programs, got into FL Studio, stuff like that. Started learning how to record actual instruments. I was still using a lot of MIDI instruments at the time, but the ideas were rough enough that I could start crafting an actual album. And It Is Happening Again was the first single that we actually had done anything with that I was proud of, at least a little, especially once we got to the stage of being able to produce it well, doing things that I actually like on it, recording, and then of course getting Matt on it finally. It took forever to get lyrics and melody. That was the last thing we worked on. I feel like for any songwriter.
So after you wrote that song, you came to me with the idea for the album conceptually, right?
Conceptually. We were in a Whataburger parking lot and it happened. It
was great, really?
We were on our way somewhere, and then I was like, Matt, I have a serious proposition for you. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of we were at that age, kind of what the song's was about being young and kind of not adolescent, really.
It's like being young and dumb.
Yeah, young, dumb in the sense that you're not a teenager anymore, but you're also not a full-fledged adult.
Yeah.
You're kind of in this middle stage where you're really unsure of where you're going. Maybe college age, roughly college age, maybe a little older, a little younger. It depends. People mature at different rates, and that's kind of, that little gray area was very much what I wanted to write about for the whole album. Because I was in that. I kind of still am in that little gray area. We both are. But Early 20s. Being young, going around, getting drunk, hanging out with your friends in the city. Just doing things that made you feel I keep saying this with this song, bigger than your body, or kind of feeling like nothing can stop you because you're stupid and you don't know what you're doing, but at the same time, you feel like a monster. You feel huge. Not like an actual monster.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, in the record there are some themes about that we go into. It's not all fun and games necessarily.
Yeah.
But I would say at that age, you learn a lot about yourself. Is all I'll say.
Those ideas are definitely very explored. The album as a whole, while it's not super prevalent in that song, because it's the first, it's gonna be the second track on the actual track list after our intro song.
Yeah.
But the album tends to be a lot about maturing and kind of learning to live with yourself.
Yeah, learning about yourself, learning to live with yourself, learning about. It was almost like a thing that I came up with, like this facade thing. It came up a little later when I was writing all these songs and writing all this stuff that every single thing we were doing in terms of making this album and being young, kind of like putting up this facade to almost protect yourself in a way.
Yeah.
Or like what I say again with the bigger...
Protect yourself from yourself.
Essentially. Not that corny, but also, in a sense, this album was built that way. We're not a big band. We're obviously not a big band. We're very small. But
I like to imagine where we
you like to imagine it. You like
to play like we're a big band.
Present yourself like you are.
Yeah.
And that kind of went into the ethos of producing it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna produce and promote and do everything like I was the 1975 per se, or like a big band that I absolutely love. I do have to shout them out. They were a big inspiration on this album and a lot of the creative process. But personally, they're one of my favorites.
Them and Chumbawamba.
Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
Off their their biggest album, Tub Thumper. But anyway, we wanted to just take some time to talk about the song. I know we had mentioned to the chat to ask questions if there was any like questions about the song or like the process or anything about the album or the band. Could we go to the chat and see if they have anything to say right now?
Sure. So we have a couple questions. One of them says, "What's with the Twin Peaks reference?"
No. The Twin Peaks.
I'm surprised someone got that.
I'm kinda not. It's a relatively famous line from Twin Peaks, the second season, which I won't spoil it. It is happening again. Which, in all complete honesty, it's not really a direct reference.
Well, it's a direct reference, but it doesn't. The scene doesn't relate to
the scene and the meaning don't relate at all.
Yeah.
That was a thing where I was working on the album and like I was having trouble coming up with song titles that I actually cared about, whatnot. Song titles that felt good coming out of my mouth, or song titles that just felt
nice.
like it felt nice to say or something like that. And I would watch shows. I would think of things in my head. I would listen to people's conversations and come up with things or hear things that people say. And I'm like, that's a song title. Or that sounds like something I would like to hear as a song title. And it is happening again. Was one of them. Once again, a lot of things from the album came very late.
There's also
in the stage.
That reminds me of the kind of challenge that you put on both of us when you were making the album. Of like, you don't want any of the songs to have the song title in their lyrics.
That was one. Yeah, that's. You impose little rules on yourself while making something. It's just to either create an image or create something. Yeah, more.
There's nothing wrong with saying the name of the song, but like imposing those creative restrictions can like help refine your product.
It refines it. It helps you be creative.
Yeah.
In general. Any more questions that we have in there?
Yeah, so we have another question here. So it says, "What was the hardest part about making this particular song?"
That is a very different answer for both of us. So why don't you go first?
For me, honestly, it was like, so I was learning production the whole time I was like making the song, and then after I'd made more songs, I just kept getting better and better and better. But easily the hardest part of getting it done was the first time I had to go through mixing and mastering on my own, and getting every instrument to sound good and getting every single thing to sit relatively well with the mix to where I'm proud of. For me, that's probably the hardest part, I would say. What about you?
It's probably honestly like a discipline thing.
Like getting it done.
Learning how to record and learning how to just force yourself to sit down and try it again and record it again,
Get it
go
done.
for it again,
Get it right.
keep on,
Yeah.
being like, okay, I don't know if this melody really works, but I let's sit down with it. I gotta force myself to just keep on working on it, or look at these lyrics, any of that. Most difficult and the most like, the part of working on this song that has been most like beneficial to me. Most of the learning experience is just the kind of discipline I have to have.
Yeah, you get a sense of like things become streamlined now for me.
Mhm.
Things are going to become streamlined now for me that I've done it once.
Yeah.
Because we still have a whole album to finish. We have a lot to go for from here, but the first single at least we got done. We're proud of it.
Mhm.
We want to work on more music, get the
Yeah.
album out eventually. And yeah, that's a lot of. I just wanted to come on live stream, talk about this,
Yeah.
maybe get to know us a little if you haven't already.
Mhm.
But I think that's good. What do you think?
We do have another question
We
if you
do?
guys want to
Yeah,
answer
okay.
it real quick. If you were to pick one song on the new album to represent the whole thing itself, what would it be?
It's the ending track.
It is Semi-Less the Future, right?
Yeah, that's the most, because that song is literally a thesis on the record.
It's kind of the nostalgic thing too.
and
because
sonically.
Sonically, well, there's a little bit of a lot of '80s reference and
Yeah, I don't
passages
know
on
if
the
we actually
record.
did we go over the kind of sound that the album's gonna have?
Kinda. I mean, there's a lot of hints of. I say '80s for me because there was a lot of '80s music. For one, I just love the sound of new wave. I love those sounds. Those are personally some of my favorites that I've ever listened to. But for a specific reason, bands like maybe the Police, Talking Heads,
yeah.
in their heyday were among some of the. They were not necessarily radio friendly, but more like the radio had a lot of songs that were both able to be played on the radio and become these catchy hits, but also they were musically complicated. Stuff like
Yeah.
Tears for Fears, of course the Police,
80s Rush.
80s Rush, like stuff like that.
Rush's popular stuff.
Subdivisions, stuff like
Subdivision
that.
specifically was an inspiration for it as
Huge one, Limelight, anything like that was a big inspiration in terms of how I wanted to make this record.
Yeah.
It Is Happening Again is not the most complicated song on the record, I think. I'm not a very big music theory person. Matt is, he helped me out on that. But it was I would do things that I would like, it would sound musical, and then Matt would come to me and like, oh, you did that.
Oh, yeah,
And I didn't know that, and I'm like, I didn't know that was a thing that you could actually do with music theory, or was actually intentionally doing something, but that was kind of the essence I wanted to
Oh,
get.
that was a D half diminished
Something
seventh chord.
like that. I mean, you have your whole jazz piano piece on the album. I did a lot of ambient stuff too. I'm a huge
Yeah, there's a mix of ambience. There's some jazz in there. There's a lot of new wave inspiration.
new wave, pop rock. I would say maybe even a little like I don't know what to describe it as.
A little
Like
bit of punk.
punk, yeah,
No.
yeah, like new wave punk.
No, there's no punk in that.
I meant more like or post punk. A little
Maybe
bit
a
of
little.
the Smiths. You could say the Smiths. Maybe a little bit of the Smiths. But yeah, that's all I got.
Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, I mean, like, would there be anything for the audience to like look forward to in the coming future? Anybody who's looking, who's like your first sampling so far, is there anything you can promise them like in the future as well?
Well, we got Semi-Realistic Future, the song we were just kind of talking about. That's
promised
that's-
more singles.
maybe like one or two more singles. If it is one, it's going to be Semi-Realistic Future. That, maybe in the summer. We're still working hard on the record,
Yeah.
but once again, the streamline process has gotten much faster for me because I've actually learned how to do that sort of thing. If we get one more in before the record comes out, I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down to do it.
Alrighty.
And a music video. We didn't want to do a music video for It Is Happening Again.
Oh,
so
yeah,
like
definitely.
an actual video. Not
Yeah.
well, we did a
Like a short
unplugged
performance.
version, kind of like on a rooftop that we found.
Something more artistic
Yeah, absolutely.
and not just us looking cute on a building.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we can wrap that up here, guys.
Cool.
You
Thanks for
guys say your
watching.
goodbye.
You were watching.
Say our goodbyes. Is that a threat?
No, just wrap it up.
Subscribe, follow us if you like us. Check out the song It Is Happening Again out now.
Yep.
And
Remember to get out and vote November 15th.
right.
Alrighty,
Thanks,
guys.